49ers versus the Chiefs, huh? I think everyone just sort of was hoping for a little bit different of an outcome.
If I got to pick, I'll go San Fran, Baltimore.
We're taking a look at some other teams that we would have liked to see square off. So with that, let's dive into 10 Super Bowl 58 matchups that we would have much rather seen than the 49ers versus the Chiefs. Baltimore Ravens versus San Francisco 49ers. We were fortunate with the league's top two teams, the Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles, meeting in Super Bowl 57 last year. And hey, that turned out to be an all-time classic, arguably a top 5 all-time Super Bowl. So why wouldn't we want a second straight year of the very best in the AFC versus the very best in the NFC? We know the Ravens crushed the 49ers at Levi Stadium back in Week 16, but surely a rematch would have been a lot closer this time around. We just can't help but think of MVP Lamar Jackson and his star-studded offense going up against the San Francisco 49ers' stingy defensive front. The Ravens also had the league's #1 defense in the regular season, so watching Mike McDonald's group go up against the 49ers' wealth of offensive weapons would have been a dandy of a chess match. The 49ers and Ravens are easily the NFL's two most star-studded teams. A plethora of All-Pros and future Hall of Famers squaring off in the big game? Come on, what more could you ask for? Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles. We know, the Eagles endured an unbelievable late-season meltdown that saw them lose 6 of their final 7 games, culminating in a wipeout loss against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wildcard round. But the Chiefs and Eagles rosters are hardly different from the ones that clashed in Super Bowl 57 a year ago. And let's not forget that thrilling Super Bowl rematch at Arrowhead that we got to witness back in Week 11 on Monday Night Football, with the Eagles squeaking out a 21-17 victory. So yeah, Part 3 to complete the trilogy would have been a very special treat. I mean, just imagine if the Star Wars franchise ended after The Empire Strikes Back. Come on, you wouldn't have been very happy, would you? Like their last 2 meetings, the Chiefs-Eagles game would have gone down to the very wire. And the Eagles' whole revenge footnote would have added another layer of intrigue for this showdown. Fans were enraged when last year's Super Bowl game essentially ended on a weak defensive holding call on James Bradbury. This would be the chance for the NFL refs to redeem themselves and for Jalen Hurts' squad to avenge their heartbreaking defeat from a year ago. Buffalo Bills versus Detroit Lions. Minnesota Vikings and Cleveland Browns fans may have a lot to say about it, but perhaps no two NFL fan bases have been through more suffering, defeats, heartbreak, and pain than those of the Bills and the Lions. So just imagine if these two teams met in Super Bowl 58. I mean, something would have to give. One snake-bitten franchise would get over the hump once and for all, while the other would be left wondering if their time will ever come. So that'd be one fascinating storyline to begin with, but also the fact that a Bills-Lions matchup would spark plenty of offensive fireworks. I mean, y'all remember that thrilling Bills victory in Motor City back in Thanksgiving 2022, right? Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and James Cook trading blow for blow with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Sam Laporta? Oh yes, sign us up for that, please, and thank you. I mean, even if you're a neutral fan, you would at least be able to shed a tear for the winning team. And another for the loser. Isn't a mix of emotions part of the fun of being a football fan? Miami Dolphins versus San Francisco 49ers. The Dolphins looked like the team to beat in the AFC in the first half of the season, but Mike McDaniel's group cooled off in the second half as injuries began to pile up. And as the schedule got tougher, Miami stood no chance against the Chiefs in the ice-cold conditions at Arrowhead in their wildcard round showdown. But still, we can't help but dream up the scenario of a Dolphins-49ers Super Bowl in Sin City. In another dimension, the Dolphins run through the AFC and set up a rematch of Super Bowl 19, the lone big game appearance of Dan Marino's Hall of Fame career. So yeah, revenge would be on the minds of old-time Dolphins fans everywhere. At full strength, Miami had the NFL's most explosive offense, led by Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane. Look, love or hate Tua Tagovailoa, but the man played like an MVP whenever his top weapons were actually healthy. Miami has the best set of offensive playmakers in the AFC. In the NFC, nobody can match the 49ers group of Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. So who wouldn't want to see the scoreboard getting lit up like a Christmas tree for 60 whole minutes? You want another compelling storyline? Well, how about Miami head coach Mike McDaniel being Kyle Shanahan's offensive coordinator in 2021 before taking the Fins head coaching job? Wide receivers coach Wes Welker also held that position in San Fran for 3 years before joining McDaniel in South Beach. The Dolphins 49ers Super Bowl would have been an an epic chess match between two offensive geniuses in McDaniel and Shanahan. You'd be looking at something close to the 73 points that the Eagles and Chiefs combined for in last year's big game. Buffalo Bills versus Dallas Cowboys. We're highly convinced that this matchup will just never happen, because both teams choke on an annual basis despite excellent regular seasons. That's why we'd wish it would happen though, because it would be the ultimate Super Bowl of chaos. Do the Bills suffer a wide right 2 in the Super Bowl instead of the divisional round loss to KC? Does Dak Prescott throw a game-sealing pick 6 in overtime? Or do both QBs go off for 300-yard multiple TD pass outings and team up for a back-and-forth Oscar-worthy drama? Plus, there's that whole storyline of the Bills trying to get revenge from those back-to-back Super Bowl losses to the Cowboys way back in the 90s. No matter what, this would be an epic showdown that would be remembered for years to come. Cleveland Browns versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This matchup may sound boring to the average fan on paper, but allow us to make it a little more enticing for you with two simple words. Baker Mayfield. The Browns discarded Mayfield like trash in 2022, all so they could trade for Deshaun Watson in a widely scrutinized move that looks awfully regrettable 2 years later. After splitting 2022 with the Carolina Panthers and Los Angeles Rams, Mayfield signed a one-year deal with the Bucs and tuned in a career year for Todd Bowles' squad. So now imagine if Mayfield and his Bucs face those very same Cleveland Browns in Super Bowl 58. It would be the ultimate revenge storyline for a guy who revived his career with 4,044 passing yards and 28 touchdowns. Not to mention, his Bucs were oh so close to stunning the Detroit Lions in the divisional round. Imagine Super Bowl 47 MVP Joe Flacco going up against the guy who was once viewed as the future savior of the franchise. Imagine if it was Flacco defeating Mayfield of all guys to end the Browns' Super Bowl drought once and for all. This could have had the makings to be an all-time Super Bowl classic. Detroit Lions versus Kansas City Chiefs. The Lions quickly asserted themselves as more than kneecap biters, but instead, legitimate contenders. All when they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead back in Week 1 to kick off the season. Kansas City, of course, didn't have Chris Jones or Travis Kelce in that game, but the Lions didn't bring their A-game either. Give us a rematch with both teams at full strength and watch the sparks fly. Just imagine the idea of the Lions potentially winning their first Super Bowl by defeating the model NFL organization. A statue of Dan Campbell would immediately have to go up at Ford Field, right? Or did the Chiefs add more salt to the wound by handing the Lions what would be their most devastating loss in history? Again, something would have to give. Baltimore Ravens versus Philadelphia Eagles. If there is one specific Super Bowl matchup that we are still waiting for, it's the battle of the two NFL's best rushing quarterbacks in any given period. Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts would have changed that if their respective teams didn't flop in the postseason. Adding to the intrigue of this matchup is the fact that we still haven't seen Jackson versus Hurts yet at the NFL level either. So now, let's picture Jackson and the NFL's top rushing offense going up against a stingy Philly front seven that had 70 sacks a year ago. And let's picture A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert trying to win their matchups against Baltimore's star-studded secondary led by Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, and Marcus Williams. Are you sold on this matchup yet? Dallas Cowboys versus Kansas City Chiefs. Don't worry, we hear you, Dallas and Kansas City haters. But if you can think about the entertainment factor for a minute, you would have yourself a fascinating showdown between these two historic franchises. This game would be a high-scoring affair between two prolific offenses. I mean, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Tony Pollard versus Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and Isaiah Pacheco? Ha! Yes, please! How about Dallas's elite O-line trying to block Chris Jones and George Karlaftis? Or Lamb and Cooks trying to solve KC's dynamic cornerback duo of L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie? Every single chess match in this matchup would be nothing short of compelling. Buffalo Bills versus San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs may have eliminated the Bills en route to winning the AFC, but it's not hard to argue that Super Bowl 58 would have been a lot more exciting if Buffalo were to face the 49ers instead of Kansas City. The Bills are just a more compelling matchup for the 49ers than the Chiefs. Watching Josh Allen put his improvisational skills on display against this fierce 49ers front would have been a sight to behold. And on the other side, how about the Bills' stingy lockdown defense trying to contain Brock Purdy and the 49ers' wealth of weapons? Sean McDermott is one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the game. But how would he fare against the offensive Jedi that is Kyle Shanahan? Two annual powerhouses that always fall short of their ultimate goals in heartbreaking fashion. One team would have to win here, and it's a true shame that we missed out on a Bills 49ers Super Bowl yet again. But what Super Bowl matchups would you have liked to see instead? Is there any teams that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.